Hey, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to All Burgundy Gold Everything, powered by the Urban Sports Scene and Fox Sports Radio, 96.9 FM and 1340 AM. I'm your host, Glen, tonight with my main man, George. What's up, George? Wole is out. Mo is out tonight as well. I guess Wole's rant with last night took him out, but now he's out tonight. So you got me and George tonight, and we're going to break down the 53-man roster of the Washington Commanders. But, George, first of all, George, how are you feeling, brother?
Feeling very good tonight. The first day after Terry McLaurin signed just feels great.
It feels wonderful, feel great, man. Hey, here it is. Remember to subscribe on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, and especially all YouTube. Drop a comment in the super chat if you feel froggy. We'll make sure that your comments get posted for the super chat. But you can hit us up at All Burgundy Gold Errrrything. All right, that's ABG_Errrrything on all social media platforms and outlines. Here's what we have on tap for tonight. The Commanders made their final cut to hit the 53-man roster. We'll break down any surprise names. We'll talk about the 53-man roster. We'll talk about those that may return back from the practice squad. So, hey, let's get into it. We're going to get into it, George. Let's talk about some of the names that were cut. Was there any surprises, all right, that for the people that were cut today? Were there any surprises that was cut? Here's the list for those that are watching online.
Yeah, I want to see this because I've heard a few names that were amongst the cuts. Michael Dieter is a surprise because I was under the impression that we really hadn't found a solution at backup center. So I would not have expected that. I'm rather glad that we won't ever see him in that position again because he was terrible last year. And then Sheldon Day would be a big surprise to me because I thought Sheldon Day would make it as a defensive tackle, and I didn't think he did too bad. So for me, those are the two. Those are the big two for me that I'm surprised at.
Yeah, for me, Dieter was a big surprise to me, but Ja'Cory Brooks was also a surprise for me as well. I thought Ja'Cory Brooks did enough to make this roster. I mean, I knew they weren't going to get rid of Luke McCaffrey, right? But I thought Ja'Cory Brooks could somehow slip in special teamer or something of that nature. Now, again, Ja'Cory Brooks, he's on waivers, and we talked about it before we started the show. Don't think he's going to clear waivers. I don't think so. I think somebody going to pick up Ja'Cory Brooks. I thought Brooks did everything he needed to do. He was featured in all the three preseason games. He caught passes in all three preseason games. He looked good in training camp. I mean, this kid did everything that needed to be done, except for the fact his name wasn't Terry McLaurin or McCaffrey, right? Because Terry, that's a Terry cut. You know, that when Terry came back, they had to let somebody go, and Ja'Cory Brooks was that guy they had to let go. He is, to me, that one. Micah Dieter, like I said, I'm surprised on Dieter because he was the backup center. He played last year in key moments when Biadasz went out. But what I was reading on him was there have been some shaky snaps. His snaps has not been as consistent as possible throughout the preseason and throughout the preseason game. So they're concerned about his snapping, and they're concerned about him getting the ball back to Jaden Daniels but Biadasz had to go out. So I get that there. It is I think the Washington has a great roster. I think the roster is built to last, and we talked about it a little bit last night. I think this roster is built to try to compete with and stay with the Philadelphia Eagles. They kept big linemen, right? They kept defensive linemen who were big, and to try to stop and slow down the run, which was a sore spot for the Washington Commanders last year. Early people who got cut earlier was Michael Gallup, who got cut yesterday. We mentioned that as well. Just too old. Gallup just didn't have it anymore, right? Yeah, he didn't make it so. No big deal.
And one thing we have to remember, this is not just us, this is everybody. There is a very good chance that this roster will not be the roster when we get to September and we're starting this season, because you can bet there are some roster cuts that Adam Peters has got his eye on that he's going to bring in. So some of them guys at the end of the roster, they still probably are facing a nervous 48 or 72 hours. Waiting there. And see, I think that's what's interesting is, okay, Michael Dieter's cut. Is there a guy out there at center that they're looking at that can be a better backup center than Michael Dieter. Because that Tyler Biadasz right now is one of the most important players on the team. And it's crazy to think that a center is that important. But they really struggled when he was not in there last year. And if something happens to him right now, I mean, who in the heck is going to be the guy? I know they were talking about Allegretti as a potential backup center, but I don't think they're too enthused with that. Wide receiver, as Paul was mentioning, I do think they're going to bring a wide receiver in. I'm sure they're hoping they can sneak Ja'Cory Brooks through to the practice squad, but like you, I agree with. I don't think that's going to happen, Glenn. And look, it hasn't happened yet, but you got to think a second kicker might be coming in here to at least push Matt Gay, because that's been unsatisfactory to say the least in camp, and certainly in the in the preseason game. So, I think there's going to be some interesting things yet to happen with this roster that we haven't seen coming yet. So that's as much what I'm looking forward to as anything else, is who's still going to be here. When we get to a couple Sundays from now, or a couple Sundays from last Sunday, and what the heck's going to happen with some of these positions. Linebacker's another one. Are we going to bring a linebacker in?
Look, Gay is on a short leash, right?
He better be.
Gay is on the short leash. I'm kind of not surprised that he made it, but if there's a kicker that ever gets on, if there's a kicker that goes on waivers that they may think they could bring in, who may be better than Matt Gay, he's coming in. He's going to probably come in Washington and try. I agree with what Wole said the other day. There need to be some tryouts, right?
Mm-hmm.
They need to have some tryouts to come in. They need to take some 100%. tryouts to try out for kickers, right? When you talk about wide receivers, these are the wide receivers that Washington kept, right? You kept Terry McLaurin, you kept Deebo Samuels, you kept Jalen Lane, Noah Brown, and Luke McCaffrey. Here's the question marks, right? How healthy is Noah Brown, right? That's the question when you talk about bringing wide receivers. And Paul said it earlier. When you bring wide receivers let's say that we know that these three are going to stay there, right? Terry McLaurin is going to stay there. Deebo Samuel is going to stay there. Jalen Lane is going to stay there. Those guys you can lock them in, right? They're locked in. The two question marks at this wide receiver spot is Noah Brown and Luke McCaffrey, right? I know what people say about Luke. I get it. But if there's somebody else that got there that's better than Luke, they will bring them in. But I really think the one that's teetering and tottering is Noah Brown because of injuries.
I agree with you, but I think that's where your frustration is, and where the frustration of some of our chatters are with about Ja'Cory Brooks is to me correct. Because right now, okay, you've got Terry, you can count on him. Deebo, we think we can count on him, but he's got an injury history too. So that's something we got to watch out for. Jalen Lane's a rookie. Noah Brown, who knows? They showed him warming up before the game the other day, and he looked all right, but he hadn't played. He hadn't taken one snap in preseason. And given his injury history, I don't think and I think most of our chat would probably agree, are not satisfied with the only other guy being Luke McCaffrey, who just hasn't shown a lot right now. I hope Deluxe is right. Deluxe is saying that none of the wide receivers released will get claimed. I hope you're right, because I hope we get Ja'Cory Brooks onto that practice squad and are ready to elevate him at a moment's notice. But honestly, I would have kept another wide receiver for that reason. I think there's real question marks beyond the big guys, and even there, really, your only sure thing is Terry McLaurin. I mean, we believe Deebo's going to be really good, and if he's healthy, he is, but the health is a question. We believe Jalen Lane's going to be good, but he's a rookie, so that's a question. And this Noah Brown thing is look, we have to remember, we didn't get Noah Brown until roster cuts last year, and only reason we got Noah Brown last year is that Houston had that many good receivers, and Noah Brown kept getting hurt. So that's something that we're going to have to be careful about. So I'm going to be interested to see what happens at wide receiver between now and opening day against the Giants, because I think something is going to happen there.
Let's get a couple comments up here real quick before we go to the next parts of the rosters. Right, here we go. Jonathan Chestnut says Hopkins returned as a competition for a kicker. Dustin Hopkins wasn't bad. I mean, I can see that, but I'm not sure if this regime wants to bring Dustin Hopkins in.
He had gotten the yips at the end, and we kept him 2 years too long and missed out on Tyler Bass, who I desperately wanted when he was in the draft. I'd rather have Seibert back, honestly. What's he doing? Because he was red hot for a while before that injury.
Yeah. So hey, here's Deluxe asking you a question, George. And I was going to ask the same question. Who would you release to keep a wide receiver you can add to your practice squad?
Oh, gosh. I'll tell you. This is because it's a good question. I think, honestly, I know people were talking about, I know people are happy for Cajo, and I know we need help at linebacker. That's probably who I would have not kept to have another wide receiver. Ale Cajo. I would have tried to sneak him through and see if we could get him through to the practice squad and have another receiver. So, and that's tough because I think a lot of people were happy to see Cajo make it. And I don't blame him because I think he played well. I think he was one of the few guys on defense in the first and third games who played well. And really helped himself. So I mean that would be tough justice on him, but that's what I would have done.
We got
Deluxe.
Matt,
it's a great question.
Matt
That's
Wright.
what I would have done.
Tim says that Matthew Wright is available.
Timothy, I like it, Timothy. Absolutely. Because he did do a good job filling in for Butker. And I'm not sure what I recall about Matt Wright is that he wasn't that great beyond 50, but he was pretty darn reliable 45 and in last year for the Chiefs. So I Timothy, yes, Matt Wright. And then wait a minute. One of the really good kickers, I can't remember if it was Jacksonville or Dallas, but one of the kickers who made a crazy kick in the preseason that's not the main kicker for that team, he got released. Somebody mentioned it on Twitter, and I can't think of who it was. But it's this if they really aren't going to push Matt Gay at all, I don't want to see what it's going to be like if he misses a kick against the Giants, particularly if it's close, if it's any kind of a short kick. Because this has been ridiculous what's going on in preseason with him.
I'm crazy and I'm that guy. And this organization hasn't done anything wrong yet. And it may not be a good PR hit, but I'll look at the kicker up from up 95 that just got released. Released.
No, not with all that. Let's remember, they signed what's his name, and then the first hint of scandal, they got rid of him. McManus?
Yes.
Because of all that supposedly alleged stuff he was doing on the plane, and then it turned out not to be so. And as a result, they went through kicker agony last year because of that. Tucker's, to me, he's radioactive because let's be honest, he would have been picked up by somebody by now if there was nothing to those allegations. There must be something to them. Otherwise, somebody would have grabbed him by now.
Yeah, but he suspended. I just thought about it, He's suspended by the league and can't be reinstated until November.
That too.
I just thought about it. He did get suspended and can't be reinstated until November. So
I want to give. I'll give the organization credit for being consistent on stuff like that because so far, if somebody's radioactive in that way, they have decided they're not putting up with it, which is fine.
Yeah.
That is. I mean, again, as long as they're consistent on that, great. I don't have a problem with that.
Todd says this. Todd says our depth is so weak at several positions. I don't think the team had the luxury to keep an extra receiver. That is a good point. And
you know what? That too is a fair point, Taj. And again, this is, this is what we all have to keep reminding ourselves is when you're building a roster from scratch, because the last roster that was left to you was that bad. This is the tough things. If they'd have had more draft picks, I don't have any doubt that Adam Peters would have found us a center in the draft that could have backed up Biotish. They only had 5 of them. I think the kicker might be the same thing. I think if they'd have had more draft picks, you'd have seen a kicker in round 6 or 7. Because the 49ers, when he worked there, were not afraid to draft specialists in day 3. But you only had so many picks, so that's an issue. And I think that I think that's Taj is making a good point. And again, we are still in the position where we are robbing Peter to pay Paul.
Right.
We really are doing that right now because we're just not strong enough in certain areas. Deluxe has asked another question, which I'm happy to answer if you want me to answer it.
Yeah,
or you can answer it first.
Deluxe, we're going to get to that now because I want to go through each room. All right.
Okay.
I want to go through each room before we answer your question, Deluxe. So let's start. Let's start with the quarterback room. The quarterback room is Jaden Daniels, Marcus Mariota, and Josh Johnson. I wouldn't have been mad. Here it is. I wouldn't have been mad if they released Josh Johnson and picked up a quarterback off of waivers. But Josh Johnson is a journeyman, been around the league. We know Hartman did not have a great showing in preseason whatsoever, right? But I can see Hartman being put on the practice squad. I do have a question for you guys. We talked about it last night. I think we might have mentioned it offline or we talked somewhere. Tommy DeVito for the New York Giants, right? Got cut today.
I mean,
is he a guy that would you put on your practice squad? If you watch? Do anybody go after Tommy DeVito? I'm just asking. He had that little run he had to run with the New York Giants. Because Giants have Jackson Dart, you have Russell Wilson, you have Jameis Winston. Jameis Winston does not make it through the whole season as a number 3 quarterback on.
I was thinking Jameis Winston was going to be dealt. I thought somebody was going to deal for Jameis Winston. But then again, I also thought somebody was going to deal for Kirk Cousins. It hadn't happened yet. So
yeah, and somebody, people already dealt for Kenny Pickens. Kenny Pickens is gone out of the Cleveland,
Philadelphia. Yeah.
So I mean, out of Cleveland.
I'm with you about Josh Johnson, and that's and Taj, you just said it, and I agree with you.
That's why
I was going. We're keeping Josh Johnson says Mariota is definitely not 100%. Because if Mariota was 100%, I think we would have just gone with 2 quarterbacks. But Mariota is definitely not 100%.
And Taj, that's what I was getting at, right? Because if Jaden goes down, we believe in Marcus Mariota, right? Can we say that?
Yeah, we do.
We believe in Marcus Mariota, right? Fans believe in Marcus Mariota.
Even Wole believes in him. Remember Wole's full screen apology on Mariota.
Yeah, Wole believes in him now. So if Mariota's not 100%, I don't believe in Josh Johnson, right? I don't believe in Sam Hartman.
As third quarterbacks go, you're not going to do a lot better than Josh Johnson is for a third quarterback, honestly. But yeah, you don't want if Josh Johnson's in there, that's not great, which is why Mariota, whatever's going on with Mariota, they got to get that stuff fixed right away. Because man, it's not great that he's not fit enough that we're only going with 2 QBs.
Now we just want to keep fingers crossed, keep prayers up that Jaden stays healthy. Okay,
that too, 100%.
Johnson is there in case Mariota injury flares back up. Johnson's just started practicing. He was one of the 2 on my 53-man roster. I got wrong. I don't think he'll be on 53-man roster. All right. Taj asked this about the quarterback. What about Huntley? Does he have anything left?
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm wondering about. I saw a lot of Ravens fans want them to bring him back, which I can understand in their room. I mean, Huntley would probably be better than Josh Johnson at this point. So, I mean, that's not a bad idea, Taj. I was thinking that we were going to bring a quarterback in. I didn't think we were going to go with Josh Johnson because he struggled so much. But again, familiarity with the team. He's going to be a good locker room guy. He's not going to be a problem. So that's probably why they kept him. But man, yeah, Mariota's situation must not be great if they're doing that.
I tell you, the guy that I thought would get released, but he didn't get released. He made the roster that could have helped Washington out at quarterback, and that's Tyrod Taylor.
Yeah,
because Tyrod Taylor when he was with the Giants, when he was the Giants, he did well. But you think about running quarterbacks, throwing running back, and I've seen him. This kid play Virginia, Hampton kid. Athletic 7'5". I thought Tyrod Taylor. If something happens,
he now? Tyrod, who's he with?
He's a New York Jet.
I mean, well, no, and see that makes sense though because Tyrod Taylor's a safe pair of hands if you need him. And let's be honest, there's no guarantee Justin Fields makes it through that season, whether it's injury or he just struggles. Because I've heard a lot of criticism of Justin Fields and how he was playing during the preseason. But yeah, I'd love to have Tyrod Taylor. Tyrod Taylor, for me, I was good with Tyrod Taylor because the way they were talking about him when he was in Baltimore. He started his career in Baltimore, and those folks could not talk highly enough of Tyrod Taylor. And it's like if you're getting that kind of praise from that organization, then as far as I'm concerned, that's proof that you belong in this league and that you're an asset. And he's been an asset everywhere he's been. He's just been unlucky. So yeah, I'd have loved that Tyrod Taylor as a third quarterback, but he's such a good backup quarterback that he would get backup quarterback money.
Yeah. Here it is. So we got the quarterback room. Now we got the running back room. You got Austin Eckler, Ja'Cory Karski-Merritt, which is Bill for those who don't know. You also have Jeremy McNichols and Chris Rodriguez. Thoughts on the running back room?
Thumbs up for the running back room.
Yeah, I think
even with McNichols there, as long as I don't see a lot of McNichols carrying the ball, I'm good. I'm good as long as I don't see that. I'm very happy with those first three running backs. Of course, as ever, injuries may very well be a problem because Eckler, we'll see. So that's another room where that room could change significantly as the season goes on, and you do wonder if we're going to see at least one running back on this practice squad. I would probably expect that to be so.
I expect Allen. I don't think anybody picks Allen up. They hadn't picked him up for years. Why would they pick him up now? He's been on a practice squad for the last couple of years. So I can see Kaz Allen coming back and being on this practice squad.
Or Demetric Felton.
Oh yeah, Felton. I forgot about Felton as well. Todd says this. Todd says I really like the running back room. I think Austin will be the starter, but carries will vary between him and Bill. I think so. Well,
and as I was talking about the other night, if Austin Eckler gets the most carries, that's fine. But we do have to be careful with him because of his injury history. And remember, he's going to be important in the passing game. And so I think that's why I expect it to be a real committee approach at running back because, yes, you can throw the ball to Bill and Chris Rodriguez, but you're going to throw the ball to Eckler a lot this year. So I think, and so you got to, you get beyond about 15 touches a game for Eckler. To me, you're going to start to get in the danger zone, and we got to watch that.
Well, we'll see Eckler. I mean, remember years past, Eckler has always been that touchdown magnet. So look for Eckler to really get the ball in the red zone situation. He'll be able to. He knows how to find the end zone, right? And that's 100%. One thing about Eckler when he was younger. He knew how to find the end zone. I mean, he was a fantasy darling because again, he made it to the end zone. So
yes,
that's the running back room. Wide receiver room, we already touched a little bit. Terry McLaurin, Deebo Samuels, Jalen Lane, Noah Brown, and Luke McCaffrey. I know a lot of people want to know why Luke made it because I told you guys, Cliff Kingsbury likes blocking wide receivers. He ain't asking Luke to catch 15 balls a game, 10 balls a game. Luke may catch 5, maybe even get 5 targets. He's asking for Luke on all these screens to go hit somebody and make a block. And I know you don't keep guys for just because he blocks, but in this offense, in this team, in this organization, remember they released a guy last year because he couldn't block, Jahan Dotson. So
that's all true, but at the same time, just as we detailed, he is not giving you enough of the production as a wide receiver catching the football that you need. And right now, given the state of that wide receiver room, Luke McCaffrey may be on this field a lot more than we want him to be, and I'm not too sure about that right now.
But also, too, George, I forgot to mention, Luke plays special teams. I don't think Ja'Cory Brooks plays special teams.
That's true, and that's probably is the difference. That probably really is the difference, even if there is the politics of it as well.
Yep, like Patah just said, Luke is a specialty player that plays receiver part-time. His special teams was highlighted because of his special teams, not because of catching. And especially the third game, they tried to get him the ball as much as possible. If you go back and watch that game, they try to showcase Luke McCaffrey, and some was good, some wasn't good. Here's the room that I'm interested in, and we talk about which was the best room here, that tight end room, right? I'm interested in the tight end room, right? You have Zach Ertz, the veteran. You got John Bates, Ben Stennett, and Colson Yankoff. We all knew that Cole Turner was going bye-bye. If you didn't know, now you know, right? It was time. The Cole Turner experiment was over, And I'm not mistaken, Cole Turner was one of the last guys from the last regime.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
One of the last players from the last regime that was drafted by that regime. If I'm not mistaken.
I was gonna say in terms of draftees from that regime, we're down to Cosme and Quan Martin, I think.
Yeah, Cosme and Quan Martin.
That might be it.
Yeah, because Cole Turner was one of those guys that was drafted by the regime that is gone. All right. So what I'm interested about that tight end room is this. Yankoff showed that he has some explosiveness, that he can go down the field, right? John Bates showed that he's the best blocking tight end in the league, right? Ben Stinnett.
That's what he's there for, bless him.
Ben Stinnett, we still don't know what he is. I'm being honest, right?
And let's face it, if they bring extra players in, would it be that surprising to see Ben Stinnett be one of the guys that gets cut if they bring extra players in? You know, his preseason was underwhelming, and I think a lot of people feel like that he might be fortunate to be on this roster.
But he was high enough draft pick for them, right? He was a high draft pick.
He was. It would be a pretty big admission from Adam Peters that he whiffed. But people were not happy with Stinnett, and I think there's some merit to that.
Yeah, because again, he hasn't whiffed on any of his guys yet, right? He hasn't released any of his guys that he's drafted yet.
No, Dominique Hampton.
Oh, that's right, Dominique Hampton. Forgot about that. Dominique Hampton. Then that was like about a month or two ago, right before training camp.
That was after that horrific first preseason game against the Patriots.
Dominic Hampton is gone, right? So we'll see how Ben Stinnett plays out. We know Zach Ertz is the starter. Zach Ertz is the guy, the veteran, but he's training the next guy. Because in my heart of heart, my belief that this is Zach Ertz last year. Unless something tremendously happened, Washington wins the Super Bowl. If they win the Super Bowl, I think he goes out on top. If they don't win the Super Bowl, I don't see Zach Ertz coming back to this football team next year.
Mm-hmm.
So you have three guys that are next, right? Is John Bates the guy? Because again, you don't need a tight end just to block, but you need a tight end that goes out and make catches as well. And we haven't seen too many catches from John Bates.
See, and Bates is another one from the last regime. He's another pick from the last regime. We got to remember that. He was a Ron Rivera pick. And we have had some John Bates catching the football or not catching the football moments more appropriately. I don't ever want to see John Bates throwing the ball, but I mean literally once in a blue moon. He is a great blocking tight end, but like Don Warren could at least catch. He didn't catch the ball a lot, but when it was thrown to him, he'd catch it. John, not the case with John Bates. So I think there's opportunity here for Stinnett and Colson Yankoff if they can show something, but they got to show something.
Yeah, I think Yankoff is what I saw the other day with Yankoff is that he is explosive. He can catch the ball.
That surprised me.
Catch the ball and to find out that he used to be a running back, that was surprising as well. All right, Todd said Deluxe says this Turner may be back on a practice squad, which is possibly so. I can see Cole Turner may be back on a practice squad. Deluxe also said, what pass catcher had a good preseason with quarterback play? All right?
And that is a fair point. That it was going to be very hard for any of the pass catchers to do much of anything, given how poorly the two guys were throwing the football, Hartman and Josh Johnson. Yeah. It's a fair point.
Yeah, to my point, Todd, I love you, brother. Hey, Bates trying to catch a football is a show in all itself. It's comedy. He can't catch a football, but he can definitely.
I'm trying to remember there was a key game where he had a fumble, and I lost lost my you know what.
It was last year. I want to say it was Philly game. I'm not mistaken, but they made up.
Was it okay? I was thinking it was 2 years ago when Rivera was still here.
No, I think it was the second Philly game, but they came in and won. But
I remember him catching a ball, and I think he had run for a first down, and he instead of just going out of bounds, he's tried to freaking gain a few extra yards and put it on the ground, and I was ready to cut him on the spot right then and there. I was so mad. So yeah, it's a tragedy, Taj. And as long as he's hardly ever thrown the football, and he's blocking and knocking people's heads off, great. Because he is. It is true. As a blocking tight end, there ain't many, if any, that are his peer. Just don't throw his ass some football.
Nah, that's it. And so we'll move on to the next group, man. The offensive line, Larry Tunzel, Brandon Coleman, Tyler Biotish, Nick Algretti, Andrew Wiley, Josh Conley Jr., Chris Paul, George Fant, and Trent Scott.
And Cosme is like PUP, right?
Yeah, Cosby right now is PUP. He's on the pup list.
Yeah, and again, take your time, and I'll just let's just deal with that issue. And again, I've said this before. Other people have said this before. I will be perfectly fine if Sam Cosme doesn't take one snap this year, coming off that injury. I think there's a lot of talk. I think there's a lot of people thinking he's going to be ready to go in, say, October or November. And I wonder about the wisdom of that, because you need 4 or 5 weeks to ramp the guy up before you can even put him out there. And I just wonder if it wouldn't be better off him sitting a year and then going through the OTAs and the mini camps and all that stuff. That said, this is a good room. This is an improved room. I'm glad Trent Scott's back, and I can't really explain why, except he battled hard when he had to get thrown in there, especially in the playoffs after Cosby got hurt. So
he had moments. Trent Scott had moments.
Yeah, and George Fant, I'll tell you one thing, because there was other guys they signed late that didn't make this team, but George Fant did. So George Fant must have shown them something in practice. So it sounds like we've got pretty good insurance there. And Chris Paul, we saw how many of the backups really struggled. Chris Paul was a backup that played well. So I'm pretty happy, except the fact that we have questions at backup center. I am pretty damn happy with this offensive line room. And Taj, you're so right. Never did I think I was going to be happy about Andrew Wiley being back here. But yeah, Andrew Wiley looks like he is going to be important. And it looks like they figured him out. They figured out how to get the most out of him, and he's pretty darn good. And believe me, I was ready to get rid of his rear end a bunch of times.
The last 2 years, he had been the weakest link on the offensive line, right?
Couldn't question.
You couldn't stop anything on the inside. If you wanted to be Andrew Wiley, you wanted to be Andrew Wiley, just go inside, right? Just go inside of Andrew Wiley. He couldn't block anything. But I think this offensive line is solid. I think Biadasz is the captain of the ship. All right. Larry Tunsil is the anchor, right? But Biadasz is the captain. We go as Biadasz goes, right? Because he has to get Jaden the football. He has to get and so that's the biggest thing there. And then Biadasz knows how to block. He knows how to command the rest of the other 4 guys up front. So he's a good leader from that standpoint. So
I mean, really, out of all the free agent signings, and there have been many by Adam Peters, Tyler Biadasz is going to go down as one of the best ones from that first free agent class, because I wasn't sure he had anything left. I was not sure that he had anything left at all, because he had been pretty good in Dallas and they let him go.
Yeah.
What a player he's been for this team.
It is. Let's go right here. Scott caught Jaden first touchdown pass. He came back to get another, so he keep the ball his time. Yeah, let's
true. Hope so, Deluxe. Because I felt it was kind of tough on Trent Scott. He catches that touchdown, he can't keep the ball because it's Jaden Daniels' first pass, and someday it'll probably be in the Hall of Fame.
Hey, that HBCU grad needs to know that he needed to give that ball up.
Ram fam in the house.
Right, he needed to get that ball up. Here it is. Let's move to the other. We're talking about lines. Let's move to the defensive line. District-wise, Deron Payne, Javon Kinlaw, Jacob Martin, Johnny Newton, Dorrance Armstrong, Javonte John Batiste, and Eddie Goldman.
Yeah, what was it? Somebody in our chat was saying he hadn't heard of a shallow room yet. Well, here's a shallow room. There's potential here, but when you consider how poor the defensive line played, especially in the playoffs last year, you can't feel great about that group. There are some good things. Right. A lot of people are talking about how good Deron Payne looks, and that, in the contract year, he looks like he's set for a big year. Everybody's talking about Javon Kinlaw's size. Let's see if it matches the production, because that is right now, today, that signing is the most questionable signing that Adam Peters has done, was giving him a $45 million deal for 3 years, because his production has not merited that to this point of his career. Javonte Jean-Baptiste, we saw flashes of last year, but he's been hurt most of camp, so I don't know what's going on with him. And Goldman, I was kind of surprised that he made it.
That's the name on the list that I was surprised. Out of all the linemen, Goldman surprised me. I thought Farrell would be just stick around just for a little bit. That's the one. Remember, I said on the other night on the show, I thought he did just enough. I thought he did just enough to make the roster again. But they see something in Eddie Goldman. I think this room, as you mentioned, shallow. I think this room this is the potential room, right? You know, you got to have one room that always has potential. This is the room that you don't know what they're going to do, right? Well, Deron Payne is the only one in this room that we know what he is. We know what we're going to get. Everybody else in this room, you can put question marks. Maybe somebody maybe make an argument for Dorrance Armstrong. You know what you're going to get there too, right, from him. But you have more question marks in this room. You're not sure about Kinlaw, right? Kinlaw hasn't produced. Now he's motivated. He's energized. He's excited because he's coming back home, right? Because he's home. But we haven't seen it perform yet. Didn't see it with the Jets. Didn't see it with San Francisco. We want to see it with Washington. Everybody talk about how huge and how big he is. I need his hugeness and his bigness to go ahead and dominate the offensive lineman. All right? So quarterbacks do not have time. So a guy like Deron Payne can come off and have a great contract year. You know, Deron, my thing for Deron is you just can't do it on contract years, right? If you want to have a big season, let's have big seasons between the contracts, not doing contract years. So Johnny Newton, I think Taj did it, and I think everybody says here, Newton needs to step up.
He had one really good flash, but I think Taj, you're right. The rest of his preseason was kind of blah. So and again, a lot of us have got big raps on the guy and talking a guy up, so it is time to deliver. And to Lux's question, I count 4 of those guys on the defensive line that were here last year.
Yeah,
Armstrong,
Payne,
Newton Payne, and John Baptiste.
That's it.
So they have turned a lot of it over. To be fair,
when you give it up 5.5 yards, 6 yards of carry, you have to turn some things over too.
Yeah, but it's like it on the surface, you're not sure they've upgraded that much, but we'll find out. Hopefully, it's better. I mean, to me, the whole front seven is a question mark, except for the 2 linebackers that we're probably going to talk about in a minute now.
Yeah, we are. We didn't have to. I mean, again, you want to progress, and you don't have to change much when you're giving up 7 yards. You just change a few things, right? You change you change Jonathan Allen. That's one thing you change. And some of these guys, not telling you that you got to live up to be Jonathan Allen, but you got to kind of live up to be Jonathan Allen. Like at least have the same productivity that Jonathan Allen had. All right, shouldn't be standing on the sideline. Shouldn't be with street clothes on. You need to freaking play football and man up. Let's move on to the linebacker room. Here's the linebackers that the Washington Commanders have. You got Von Wagner.
Von
Miller, Bobby Wagner. Von Miller, Bobby Wagner, Jordan McGee, Kane Marano, Frankie Louvu, Nick Bellore, and Ali Kahu.
Well, again, we got the 2 mainstays, Wagner and Louvu. I know Miller's listed as linebacker, but I consider him an edge rusher, and he's probably a specialist anyway. So it's like I almost don't even count him in this group. Fair or unfair on that. McGee at least finally got in there and did a little something in that 3rd game, which is that was nice. Medrano, he had a few plays, but he also looks like a guy that kind of still needs some work because there was a couple times when he got fooled a little bit. A lot of people are happy about Cajo playing because he did well when he was in there. Bellore, we know, special teams ace. Yeah, again, the whole front seven's a big question. There's a lot of questions in the linebacker room, and God forbid Wagner or Louvu get hurt, it starts to look real questionable then.
It starts to look real thin. What I need to see out of this room, I need to see Jordan McGee elevate his game, right? We know last year was injuries and he came in late, but everybody said, man, Jordan McGee's the guy. Y'all got a good one with Jordan McGee. I need people to stop saying it, and we need, as a fan, as a reporter, we need to start seeing Jordan McGee be the Jordan McGee that he can be. How committed will Jordan McGee be for the Washington Commanders? And the Washington Commanders need him to be committed because they need that linebacker. Definitely need that linebacker.
That's the thing. It'll be if we do bring in some other teams' roster cuts, I don't think anybody would be surprised if a linebacker was on that list. And certainly trade deadline. I know that we've been trying to recoup picks a little more than trading them. But you got to think trade deadline, linebacker might be on that shopping list too if it comes right down to it. And Adam Peters is not afraid to make moves at the deadline. Did it last year.
Yeah. I think if we looking at question marks, that linebacker room right now has the biggest question mark for me. Right? Yeah, biggest question marks for me. Let's move on. We'll come back to that one. Let's move on to the cornerback room. Marshawn Lattimore, Trey Amos, Mikey Sandersteele, Jonathan Jones, and Noah Iganagami. That's a solid room.
Night and day from a year ago.
Night and day from the year ago.
You think about how far we've come with that part of the team. We've been talking about it all training camp and preseason. We have upgraded so much in that room. The fact that Noah Igbinoghene is the fifth guy, and people were talking about Washington might trade him, which again I think is actually a bad idea. We shouldn't do it. But the fact that he's now the fifth guy when he was arguably the second or the third guy start of last year, that's how far we've come.
Yeah.
I believe Marshawn Lattimore is going to bounce back. That might be nothing more than my fandom and me wish casting. But I think the player that is an all-pro is still in there. And I think it's now he was coming off a lot of injuries, going to a new team. Now he's had a full off season, full training camp in a system. You know, he could still be that guy that we need that can take half the field away. Mikey, no more needs to be said. Absolutely outstanding last year. Everybody's raving about Trey Amos, I think, with good reason. Jonathan Jones is an experience. I mean, gosh, just Timothy. no, Timothy.
That name would not be mentioned. That name would not be mentioned on this broadcast.
No more of even. It's like Wole bringing up Scott Turner. We don't say that name in front of Wole no more. We're not saying that name either. But this quarterback room, humongous upgrade. And yes, we're still worried about this team's run defense, but having a cornerback room like this can help you because you're going to get more sacks. You're going to get teams in longer down and distance, so they can't run the ball as much with a cornerback room like this. It has been improved so much, and you got to tip your cap to Adam Peters in the front office on that. Because yes, we had issues in the front seven, and we had problems there, and that was a big problem. But when you had Forbes and the guy who shall not be named, and Mike Davis and some of the other bums we had in the back of this defense, that had to be dealt with. Adam Peters has dealt with it. This is a room that's loaded. And I'm very happy about it.
Which I like the point that you made too, because this is the room that can cause the front four to get those sacks, right? Because what we call coverage sacks, right? Because there's nowhere to throw the football. What we need is you need a Marshawn Lattimore to stay healthy, right? Last year when he came to Washington, he had the hamstring issue. You need him to stay healthy, and he'll lock down one half of the field for you, right? If he locks down one half of the field for you, now you winning with numbers. You're winning with numbers. So we'll see how that pans out there. I do think the corner room is the toughest room there is. And I think you got young guys in the corner room is going to get better. We move on to safety, right? The last position group. I'm not talking about special teams because we already know who the special teamers are. You got the long snapper, the field goal kicker, and the punter, right? And then the field goal kicker, may not even be there long. So we see how that moves in a little bit longer with Matt Gay because he may not be there longer. But anyway, the safeties, you got Will Harris, Quan Martin, Percy Butler stuck around again, Jeremy Reeves, and Taylor Owens. All right. Percy Butler is getting saved every year. They like Percy Butler, and he's getting saved every single year to be on a football roster.
Proverbial bad penny, though. He is the bad penny. I don't care. I've had enough Percy Butler, but he does play. I think he does play special teams, and I think he actually plays well on special teams. So that certainly is probably part of the reason. Um, Will Harris, I think, is a good signing. Quan Martin took a huge leap forward last year. Again, you talk about guys that are draft picks from the last regime. There's a couple more. Quan Martin, Percy Butler. We all love Tyler Owens. He had some tough moments, but I'm glad he's sticking around because, again, special teams. Jeremy Reeves, maybe he's the one to watch because All-Pro Revo is a special teams guy, but he is slowly but surely working himself into the lineup. And I think, Jeremy Reeves might be somebody that could end up being very crucial to this room's success.
Yeah, keep an eye on Jeremy Reeves because I think he's going to do much more than special teams here in the future, right? I think he does play some meaningful minutes at safety. Quan Martin is the one that impressed me because Quan you can see the development of Quan Martin, right? You can see how Quan Martin is growing. I know he's starting. I'm not saying he is Cam Curl, but he got Cam Curl qualities where he covers, he gets to the ball, he knows his assignment, things of that nature. Because we know when Cam Curl was here, he was always around the ball. He made a big difference. He made a big difference in the Washington defense when he was here. Tyler Owens, I think, still a project, right? He's still a project for me. Not sure. I know he's on a roster now, but he's one of those guys, George. If you need to bring somebody else on, Tyler Owens is going.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That's fair because again, he had some tough moments in the preseason.
Yeah, he's that guy. If you need to bring somebody else on for another position, and you look down the roster, we need to get rid of somebody, it will be Tyler Owens. All right. Earl Williams says this: Percy must go. Percy must be living right. Hey, Percy must go to church every Sunday, y'all, because he still got a job.
He's that bad penny you can't get rid of.
He's that guy, he's doing his job. Percy's just gonna do his
Buffalo. He was Ron Rivera's famous Buffalo nickel.
Oh, yeah, Ron Rivera's famous Buffalo nickel, and he learned something else. He needs to learn something else. Put it that way, right? He needs to learn something else. So, George, with that being said, and we talked about all the rooms, right? Which room? And go back to the original question. Which room is the weakest?
The linebacker room's weakest. It's tough because they've got. There's nobody in that defensive line room as good as the top two guys in the linebacker room, but the drop off from the top two guys of the linebacker room to the rest of them is a cliff. You are going over the cliff, at least until McGee proves otherwise. Hopefully McGee or one of these other guys steps up. But for me, that's the reason. The reason that's the room that's the weakest is because the drop off from the first two guys to everybody else. And we got to remind ourselves, one of those guys that we're counting on is 38. And we're asking it, and he played nearly every dadgum down last year. That's a lot to ask of somebody that age to do that, even if he is a guy who's going to get a gold jacket, 5 or 6 years down the road.
You about to see still my point, man. I think the linebacker room is one of the weakest rooms because of the age of the linebackers, right? You can't afford an injury. You can't afford an injury to Bobby Wagner or Percy or Lubu. You want to make sure they stay healthy, right?
Tribal Chief Lubu.
Right, Tribal Chief Lubu. You want to make sure they stay healthy so they can run the defense, right? One or the other get hurt, you can probably still survive by plug and play. But if both of those guys get hurt and you got to bring in linebackers, you're done. You're screwed, right? You're definitely screwed. So I think the linebackers, the strongest room, in my opinion, is that safety room, right? And take that back. The strongest room for me is that corner room. I apologize. Is the corner room. Lattimore, Amos, Mikey Sandestill, those guys. If you're a rookie in that room, you're gonna learn, right? You're a rookie in that room. You learn how to play this game and do it at a high level, and that's where I think that room is gonna be strong, strongest room.
Agree on both points. I will say that I think our next strongest room after the linebacker, after the corner room, I think it's the running back room. Honestly, I am so excited about our running back room, especially with our top three running backs. I think we're gonna be very happy with the production we get out of those first three guys, and who knows, maybe even McNichols too. I might be wrong about McNichols. We'll see.
Taj agrees with us. Taj says this. I agree. He said linebacker and tight end room are the weakest for the same reason. Too much dependence on veterans that are very long in the tooth, which I totally agree.
And that's Taj. That is such a great point about the tight end room. It's like we're in the same boat as the linebacker. I mean, Zach Ertz is 37, 38, whatever it is. And honestly, if he didn't have such a good if he'd have had the season I think we all expected him to have last year, I don't think he would have come back again. But he was so good. And I think Jaden really worked on him and said, "Hey, I want you back, buddy." And he's like, "Well, dang it, I guess I got to come back one more time." So yeah, we're relying on some guys who are really in their dotage at this point.
Yeah, I'm sitting here looking, George, and I'm looking at we talked about Noah Iganagami, Jonathan Jones. What did Jonathan Jones do to make this team?
Well, no, I mean he barely played in the preseason because I think he's had injuries too. I mean, it's just he's an experienced guy. I'm sure Adam Peters has seen a lot of him, and this is one of those times where it's like, okay, gotta trust Adam Peters on this. Okay, we'll trust him on this one because you're right, he didn't do anything in training camp or preseason that says, oh, we got to keep this guy. But he is experienced. He has produced in this league, so I'm good with that. Again, I think it's like you guys are saying, the cornerback room is really, really strong.
And as Deluxe says, question: what rooms are stronger or weaker than last year? The rooms that are stronger than last year definitely is the quarterback. Cornerback room is stronger than last year. The safety room actually is stronger than last year. If you look at it, it's stronger than last year. The linebacker room, I'm gonna say they is stronger than last year just because Jordan McGee is healthy. Last year he wasn't healthy, and so I think that room is a little bit. And last year, remember, we was dealing with the project of Jamin Davis too, right?
Oh yeah, that's true. I totally forgot. That's right. He was still here.
Right.
That's true.
Dealing with that project. So I think that those rooms are the rooms that's better. The defensive line on paper, I'm gonna say on paper they're better, but I don't need to see them play like they did against New England and the first preseason game, right? If you're getting a new if you bring a new D lineman in, they gotta have an attitude and a swagger about themselves, right? This group has to become dominant in order for this team to go. We can't leave it as an offense. Can't leave it up to the defense. Can't leave it up to offense to bail the defense out. This defense needs to be dominant. We need to finally see a dominant defense in DC. It's been a long time, but we need to see that dominant defense, and it starts with the guys up front.
Another room that's a lot stronger than last year is the offensive line.
Yes,
that's a lot stronger than last year. No question about it.
Yeah, the offensive line is much. When you put Larry Tunsil on a line, he makes that line better, right? When you got a healthy Biotis, he makes that line better. Even Josh Connolly Jr. Shows some good glimpses, shows some good things, and he's making his team better, right? Pushing the guys in front of you. That's what it's all about. Pushing the guys in front of you and make them that much better.
And let's remind ourselves, that is a project. That is a function of what happened in that championship game against the Eagles, because that defensive line, not like we're the only one, because they did the same thing in the Super Bowl. Right. That defensive line tore our offensive line a new one. As simple as that. And Adam Peters looked at that and said, okay, we're going to have to make some upgrades in that part if we're going to compete with Philadelphia Eagles. And he's done it.
Yeah, he's done it. George, before we get up out of here, man, if there any surprises, right, that you saw, we talked about it briefly at the beginning, any surprises that you like, you know what, that guy should have stayed, not stayed. For those out there, who love special teams, Tressway, Tyler Oates, and Matt Gay are your special teamers. No arguments there. It's just going to be sad today that Tressway says it's time for him to go.
Yeah, that day, when that day comes, we better be ready to draft somebody and to do that. He's going to have some big shoes to fill. I mean, the surprises were more in who stayed as much as who went. I mean, I think Cleveland Farrell was a little bit of a surprise, but it was not that shocking. Like everybody else, I would have been perfect. I would have been very happy for Corey Brooks to stick around. Hopefully, you and I are wrong and he doesn't get picked up. But I'm with you. I think he will get claimed because I think he did show stuff. He was one of the few receivers that could show anything given given how much our quarterbacks struggled. I mean, there really wasn't anybody that was a big shock. I guess if you got one, here's one, because he was a late addition to camp, so I thought that he had a pretty good shot to make the team, was Duke Riley. That was one of the late additions camp, didn't make it. We talked about some of the ones who did. I would have thought Duke Riley, given how shallow we think the linebacker room was, I would have thought he would have been able to find a spot, but I guess Ale Cajo outplayed him.
Well, yeah,
and that's why he's in there.
I think Duke Riley will be back on the practice squad somehow, some way. I really do. He had some good moments. Then he has that moments. And when you're drafting guys or when you're signing guys or cutting down a roster to guys, you don't need moments. You need guys that make plays everywhere. It's like Cheers, where everybody knows their name, right? Where everybody know their name and they're glad that it came. So that's where he got himself in trouble. No one ever knew his name, right? You never didn't have any of those splash plays that we talk about. All right. George, who you think returns to the practice squad? Out of all the people that got cut today, practice squad numbers have increased. So who do you think are coming to the practice squad?
Well, Deluxe has said too. Riley and Brooks, he says, will be on the practice squad. I would hope so in those two cases.
I think Hartman be on. I think Hartman's on the practice squad.
Yeah, Hartman. I guess. Yeah, probably. Collie, I just, you can't even imagine. I can't, because that's the thing. It's just like so many of the other people that were cut were just people I didn't expect to be on. I wasn't surprised that they were cut. Like, I mean, we wouldn't put Chris Moore on the practice squad, would we? I hope not.
No,
because he was terrible.
He was terrible.
Maybe Sheldon Day. Can we sneak Sheldon Day through?
Yeah, you probably sneak Sheldon Day through.
Yeah. So there's a guy I'd say would make it to the practice squad, or I hope does, because he's been useful in the past. I think didn't you say Kaz Allen?
Yes,
was a good chance for the practice squad. I agree with that.
Kaz Allen had a great chance for his practice squad. Remember, Kaz Allen was on the practice squad last year, and they almost had an opportunity. I think he might have even played in the game last year. But Kaz Allen's another kid who's been around this organization for a couple of years, and that you can bring up and fit in tomorrow, and probably won't lose a beat as far as the teaching process, because he knows it. So,
yeah.
But that's it, George. Man, with this roster, right? Everything's shaping up, man. You feel good about going into week one?
I would not have if it wasn't. I wouldn't have felt as good if it wasn't for the news that we got yesterday. I mean because I know it's going to sound crazy that could throw a whole season off, but something like that could throw a whole season off. And now that is resolved, and that he's going to have time to get himself ready in practice, maybe physically, and we'll see about him physicality. I do feel good. Yes, we know the depth is not where we need to be. We know that if certain people get hurt, we're in big trouble. We got a much tougher schedule. That's all true. This team's better, and it's better in some really key areas. And at the very least, I would expect us, when we get to December, that we're going to be in the race, at least for the playoffs, if not for the division, that we'll still have Philadelphia in our sights with 2 games to play to come with them when we get to December. That's what I expect. That's what I hope. This is a good football team.
Yes.
There was a lot of smoke and mirrors last year. Jaden's brilliance, certain things bouncing the right way. This is a better football team than what we had last year, 1 year ago. I felt confident that they were only a 7 or 8 win team a year ago. I now think that this is a team that should win 10, and that 12 or 13 is not out of the realm of possibility.
That's the way we look at it too. I look at it. This team has 12 or 13 wins is not out of the realm of possibility, but it's also down to a team. I don't want to say 2-team race because the Giants have gotten better. The Cowboys have gotten better. There will be some upsets. There will be some losses that they shouldn't have. There will be some moments where we probably even scratching our head, right? But I am not mad at this 53-man roster. And I think Deluxe said it too. Deluxe, I was getting ready. Terry signed and changed 53-man prediction. Changed from 6 to keep 5 wide receivers when he signed. I think that changed a lot in this organization. When you signed Terry McLaurin, that $96 million Ja'Cory Brooks had to go, right? So when you take Ja'Cory Brooks out the way he has to go, now you need to increase everybody else's responsibility, right? We don't know as I mentioned earlier, we don't know what percentage Noah Brown is at. You don't know what Luke McCaffrey is going to show up, right? The Luke McCaffrey that's going to get maybe 40, 50, 60 yards a game, or the Luke McCaffrey that's going to get disappearing and blocking guys downfield and playing special teams. That's the Luke McCaffrey that we've been getting, but we want to see. It's not that fans hate Luke. We just want to see more out of Luke.
Exactly.
It's not fans hate him.
I mean, he was picked in round 3. There was a lot of hype. I certainly was buying into it last year. I thought we'd see a lot from Luke last year. It's not been enough. And when you look at this wide receiver room, and other people have said it, there's a lot of questions in this wide receiver room. There is opportunity for Luke McCaffrey. And by and large, at least in the preseason, he didn't take that opportunity. Again, not all his fault. We know about the quarterbacks and how much they were struggling. But we got to start to see something, because it isn't going to take much to, oh crap, Luke's going to be on the field every play.
Yeah.
It isn't going to take much for that to happen. So it's time. It's time for Luke McCaffrey. And if not, it's time to get somebody else.
Yep, it's time. It's time for him the opportunity to step up into have his name and number called a lot, right? Name and number called a lot. We can't always put trust in Lane, which is a rookie. You definitely can't put trust in the other one we got.
Noah Brown.
Noah Brown. Yeah, that's right. Noah Brown gonna be healthy. That Noah Brown is gonna be healthy. So can't do that there. So hey George, final thoughts, man. Final thoughts and comments before we get up out of here.
I'm pretty happy with the way things have turned out. There are things that I'm disappointed about. I'm waiting because I think we're not done with this roster. I think there are going to be people brought in the next 2 or 3 days from roster cuts.
Yeah.
And of course, there needs to be a kicking competition. We don't know if we're going to get one, but that's the thing that's the real burr in my saddle right now. And it's some fan base will look at that and go, you're crazy, but everybody around here knows how many close games we played last year. And how if we don't have a good kicker, that could be huge.
Yep, the ball could have bounced the other way last year, and Washington could have 3 or 4 more games less than they did. And of course, I know the Pittsburgh game, Washington would have had one more if you had the Pittsburgh game too. So, hey, that's the way football is, and that's why we love it so much, right? The ball bounces different ways. People come in, people go. But with the Washington Commanders have their 53-man roster. George, before we leave, guys in the chat, do me a favor. Give me your grade of this roster. A, B, C, D, or F with this roster, because we always said it. Adam Peters is trying to build his roster, right? He's getting there. Last year, this team did it without build. That wasn't a roster. They're building this roster. So how would you give this roster? What grade would you give this roster?
Oh, well, last year's roster, I would tell you, was a C or even a C minus, and that tells you just what an incredible job the coaches and the quarterback did. This roster's a B. This roster's a solid B. You can't say an A, because if they were an A, their backups would have played a lot better in the preseason what they did. So not an A, can't be an A yet. You need to have the kind of depth. You need to have a roster like what Philadelphia's got, with that kind of depth, before you can be an A. But they're a solid B, and that's light years better than what we were 2 years ago.
Yeah. Definitely that. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, before we go, make sure you subscribe to us on Apple, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, YouTube. Like, comment, and share this. Make sure you share with somebody else. Tell a friend, tell a friend, and who tells another friend about the All Burgundy and Gold Errrrything podcast. Once again, if you've watched this for the first time on YouTube, make sure you hit the subscribe button, hit that bell notification. Check out the podcast as well on Spotify, iTunes, wherever else you get your podcast if you can't watch us live. And George, once again, man, hey, Wole's not here. He's happy about the fact that he told y'all, right? He told y'all. I'm not going full screen, man. He told y'all, but I'm not gonna be that. Not gonna do that for him tonight. But hey, we appreciate you guys. Thanks for rocking with us. Once again, you're listening to All Burgundy Gold, everything powered by the Urban Sports Team and Fox Sports Radio 96.9 FM. For ages, we are out. Deuces.